A predictive model is perfectly happy to run on a table completely packed with duplicate rows, impossible dates, or shifted definitions. Technically, it works just fine, but in reality, it's basically a ticking time bomb. Exploration is exactly how we spot those hitting data problems long before the formal modeling even begins.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really close look at the data workflow to make sure our models are actually built on solid ground, right from step one.
So, the core question we're tackling today is this: what exactly is exploratory data analysis, and how does it guide responsible modeling? Because as we're going to see, exploration really isn't just an optional add-on, it is the absolute foundation of truth for any dataset.
Here is our roadmap for the session. We'll define exploratory data analysis, walk through the four-stage process, apply that to a concrete dataset example, examine some common misconceptions and limitations, and finally wrap things up with the what, how, and when.
Let's jump right into part one, defining exploratory data analysis.
At its core, exploratory data analysis uses summaries, visualizations, and pointed questions to understand distributions, relationships, missingness, anomalies, and data provenance before formal modeling. It is a highly iterative investigation. We're testing hypotheses here, not just going on a fishing expedition for the most attractive charts. A massive part of this is looking at the distribution. That's simply the pattern of values and their actual frequencies. We need to know, how often do certain values appear? Are they clustered tightly together? Are they spread way out? Or are there extreme outliers totally skewing the bigger picture? And then there's provenance, meaning the data's origin and exactly how it's been processed. Knowing what information actually enters your pipeline and what specific operations changed it along the way is what turns abstract numbers into a trustworthy, examinable system. Moving on to part two, the four-stage EDA process. So how does this actually work in practice? It flows through four sequential stages. First is context, where you confirm your unit's schema, provenance, and population. Next is UNIVARIATE. Here you inspect single variables for missingness, duplicates, and any weird anomalies. Then we look at relationships, comparing variables and subgroups with summaries and visuals to see exactly how they interact. Finally, document. This is where you record your findings, revise your questions, and crucially, keep this exploration strictly separate from any confirmatory testing. Let's look at part three, a course outcome dataset example. Let's make this abstract process concrete using a course outcome dataset. In the context stage, we'd start with something foundational, like checking the counts by term and learning modality. Then, in the univariate stage, we'd inspect the actual success rate distributions to spot any anomalies. Moving to relationships, we might examine if missing demographic fields correlate with specific student outcomes. And in the document stage, we would carefully compare cohort definitions across different years to make absolutely sure everything is consistent. The real takeaway here is context. A sudden jump in your data might literally just reflect a policy shift or a coding change rather than any actual shift in student behavior. EDA connects the raw numbers back to the real world, which completely prevents analysts from inventing inaccurate causal stories about what's going on. This leads us to a highly practical rule of thumb. Always match your method to the question, the available data, and the cost of an error. You have to use EDA before you even touch feature engineering and modeling. Don't just pick a technique because it's the popular thing to do right now. Verify that your inputs and outputs actually answer the real-world question. Which brings us to part four, misconceptions and limitations. There is a dangerously common misconception out there that EDA proves hypotheses or that it permits unlimited testing without any consequences whatsoever. That is completely false. The much more accurate view is that EDA simply reveals patterns and generates questions. An independent pre-specified analysis is absolutely required if you want to perform confirmatory inference and actually prove a claim. We also have to acknowledge some very real limitations here. Visual patterns can sometimes just be artifacts of scale, multiple comparisons, small groups, or selection bias. Plus, exploring sensitive subgroups always requires strict privacy care and human judgment. Knowing these boundaries is crucial because it tells you exactly when a result deserves your confidence and when it desperately needs more testing. Finally, part five, the what, how, and when. Let's recap the essential byte. What is it? It's using summaries and visualizations to truly understand your data before formal modeling. How does it work? By systematically moving through context, univariate, relationships, and document.
And when does it matter? Before feature engineering, immediately after any data transformations, and actively during monitoring when new data flows in.
Complex ideas made clear. So, as you review your own workflow, or maybe the next time you are looking at a highly sophisticated model's output, I want you to ask yourself, is this model actually built on an explored, verified truth, or is it just running blind?